IQME got its name because it brings you back to your natural intelligence, to nature's intelligence. It is a tool for mental health and a key to unlocking the true capacity of the body as well as the mind, that helps you free up from blockages and limitations that stand between you and your real potential. That potential is innate, but accessing it involves bridging the gaps in your consciousness between left and right brain, masculine and feminine, and the conscious and subconscious mind. Understanding the mechanisms of our perception and the symbiotic nature of our body and mind empowers us. It empowers us to make informed decisions when it comes to our well-being and health, and to liberate ourselves from perspectives and habits that do not serve us. IQME was designed by Johny Dar as a remedy for humanity in the present time. Johny is an artist, designer, musician, and visionary who is fiercely dedicated to fulfilling his own potential and assisting others to fulfill theirs. All Johny's art is inspired by organic intelligence and features groundbreaking geometric and mathematical properties. In recent years, his work has attracted international acclaim and been hailed as a new renaissance in the making. Johny himself believes that a renaissance is a necessity in order to steer our society and species away from self-destruction. He created IQME as a simple tool that fosters a renaissance on an individual level by supporting personal transformation and helping people live empowered, liberated lives. IQME came about after Johny reached his own understanding about the impact of sensory experience and information consumption on the brain and body through extensive personal observation and transformation. He made the original IQME art series into coloring books as a simple universal method for supporting mental and physical health for people living a modern, especially metropolitan lifestyle. We live in a society that is more comfortable in terms of lifestyle than it has ever been, yet stress is increasingly common. At the moment, the world is experiencing an exacerbation of stress due to the impact of the coronavirus and the fear and anxiety being peddled by the mass media. Due to technology and the internet, we can now take on information from all over the world at the click of a button and keep abreast with global news on a moment-to-moment basis, more so than was ever possible for previous generations. Excessive consumption of media and social media has never been more prolific. The problem is that we are not always able to process or digest the information that we perceive. This can make it difficult to maintain a balanced, clear perspective that empowers us to be of benefit to ourselves and others. Due to the extortionate volume of information that we consume as a society day to day, all with its own agenda and spin on what it describes, the impact on individual and collective consciousness is significant. Media overload is also a major factor in creating a pervasive sense of fear, which can be considered a pandemic of its own. During the current global lockdown, billions of people are more online than ever. However, this time can also be recognized as a valuable opportunity for us to consume less information, even to allow ourselves a form of information detox. It can be embraced as a pivotal juncture in which we can reconnect with our own truth, dreams, power, and creativity, and come home to ourselves and our true nature. IQME is a trusty ally and valuable tool that can help us do exactly that. Fundamentally, IQME offers a support system designed to help you break through everything that keeps you from accessing who you really are and your own voice, creativity, and natural ability to navigate life. It does this by helping you filter external influences internally, so you can discover the real, true, one-of-a-kind you. In a way, IQME is like a shortcut or lazy method because it helps, whether or not you engage it consciously, since your subconscious knows exactly what to do with it. It's a bit like a zip line. Once you have the harness on and you're all hooked up and strapped in, there's not much to do. Gravity ensures you sail effortlessly to the ground. But like everything, IQ is partly what you make of it. So if you engage it consciously with an understanding of its functions and bring awareness and purpose to it, you get more out of it. If you combine it with other practices like yoga or meditation or therapy or exercise or forms of creative expression, it will support you in those, like a personal coach by your side, helping you tune in or recharge or decompress or hear where you are really at, beyond the noise outside and within you. At a basic level, coloring IQ cultivates a sense of calm, which brings clarity, and with that clarity comes an opportunity to listen to your own voice. The process of coloring the shapes facilitates mental spaciousness and focus, and gives the mind a support system to lighten up from the weight of all the input, so you can come to a place of neutrality and peace. This helps the brain file your experiences more effectively, in a way that is true to you. Coloring is easy to do, and there are no rules about how to work with IQ. As long as you're looking at it and coloring, you're on track. Yet this simple action leads to relief, revelations, and understanding. So IQ empowers the conscious mind and simultaneously acts as a cleaning agent within the subconscious, helping it process and release information that is not of benefit to you, your growth, or your goals. IQ works for anyone, yet it also provides a customized experience because it addresses whatever information is already present within the individual. In other words, interacting with IQ assists you with whatever topics are rattling around, unresolved or undigested in your consciousness. So whether it is a movie you just watched, the corona situation, a financial difficulty, an emotional wound, or a big decision, IQ helps out, so your brain and body are more able to cope and come to solutions, resolutions, and healing. The reason IQ is able to do this is because of the harmonious arrangement of triangles, circles, and squares that make up the IQ shapes. These 3 geometric shapes are found throughout nature and within most human creations. They are also the shapes the brain uses to process visual perceptions. The eyes and the pineal gland work together, which is the reason you see one unified image rather than a separate image for each eye. The pineal gland acts as a third eye, so your left eye takes on the triangle forms from within whatever it is you're looking at, the right eye the squares, and the pineal gland the circles. Our visual modality for perception needs all 3 of these aspects to function properly, like an electrical circuit that requires positive, negative, and neutral in order for the current to flow. IQ reflects this function, representing the 3 eyes as triangles, circles, and squares, and presenting a harmonious arrangement of the 3 shapes. By unifying the triangles, circles, and squares in each integrated image, IQ represents and supports the symbiotic function of the 2 eyes and pineal gland within the human perceptive system. For centuries, the pineal gland has been a subject of fascination and speculation across many traditions and cultures. The ancient Greeks believed it to be our connection to thought itself, while mystic and esoteric traditions portray it as a spiritual gateway, a metaphysical connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. For Buddhists, the pineal gland is a symbol of spiritual awakening. In Hinduism, it is the seat of intuition and clairvoyance. And for Taoists, it is the mind's eye or heavenly eye. Most spiritual traditions agree that the activation of the pineal gland is an imperative step to attaining full human potential. According to modern science, its primary physical purpose is to produce melatonin. Melatonin has various functions in the central nervous system, the most important of which is to help modulate sleep patterns and our circadian rhythms. In these terms, the pineal gland is increasingly recognized as having a direct bearing on happiness, well-being, and mental health. IQME works on the basis that the pineal gland is the location in the brain where the conscious meets the subconscious mind, and where the external observation meets the internal observation. Through these meetings, individuals form their perceptions about the nature of reality. These perceptions are the thoughts and ideas that end up forming our belief systems, which in turn shape the way we experience the external world. When an individual consumes excessive amounts of information through their senses, the pineal gland's ability to connect the conscious and subconscious, or the external and internal experience, and come to a conclusion or decision, becomes impaired. This causes the individual to struggle with digesting their experiences, which results in the experiences getting stacked up in the subconscious because a conclusion or result from the experience has not been reached. This in turn impacts the frontal lobe of the brain, which is the part of the brain that controls important cognitive skills such as memory, language, judgment, problem solving, emotional expression, and sexual behavior. Your frontal lobe is like the steering wheel of your car. It is the faculty you use to navigate your way through life, the control panel of your personality and your ability to communicate. Being overloaded with undigested information is like driving through life with a dirty windshield. This can cause irritability, aggression, impaired moral judgment, loss of memory, and dementia, among other things. And we all know what happens when too many windows are open on our laptop or phone. The device gets slow and sluggish. Human beings are no different. IQME functions like a natural, active ingredient that assists the brain to handle the weight of accumulated visual perceptions, which makes room for it to process other sensory experiences and information. This fosters clarity, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. You probably know the feeling of being really motivated to do something, perhaps start a new project or change a pattern of behavior, and then somehow you lose your motivation. This is often because your information consumption dilutes your idea with other ideas, images, and messaging, which renders you less capable of driving your own car. For the brain, a quick scroll on social media is like asking it to navigate 20 different streets at the same time. Trying to drive while viewing 20 streets simultaneously when you can only actually be in one street is confusing to the subconscious, because the subconscious effectively goes and joins whatever experience you perceive, even through a screen. It lives it as if it is really happening to you, just like when you dream and you experience the dream as reality. When overloaded, your subconscious can prompt you to feel like you don't have room, often translated mentally as you don't have time, to cultivate your own idea properly, which shrinks the possibility of realizing it within your own consciousness. So you get the feeling that your idea is mission impossible, not because it really is impossible, but because your brain is struggling to cope with digesting all the other information you've uploaded to it. We are easily influenced. It is our nature. Just like a wolf is influenced by the weather, a scent in the wind, or the presence of predators or prey. This is what enables us to endure as a species. We need that sensitivity to respond to our environment, protect ourselves and our young, and survive in our habitat. Sensory experiences do not just evaporate after they happen. They are filed by the brain and stored in a physical location in the body. It is an extraordinary capacity of human nature that every perception, observation, and experience that ever occurs within our field of consciousness is registered in our brain, nervous system, and body. This not only applies to real-life experiences, but to entertainment and on-screen experiences too. The good, the bad, and the ugly ones. The brain does not discriminate. It registers every experience you have and stores it in a physical location in your body. So whether they're consciously remembered or not, all your memories and experiences are stored under your skin in the form of light and vibration. Imagine you go for a walk and film everything you pass. When you watch the film later, you will observe many things you didn't notice while filming, because you were focused on certain familiar aspects of the journey, the road, the crossroads, where to turn, etc. So you probably didn't see all the flowers on the side of the road, or register all the cars that drove past, even though they still ended up in your movie. The brain acts like a recording tape this way. It films all your sensory experiences, but is not necessarily able to understand or digest everything, even though everything is caught on its camera and physically recorded in your body. Registering our sensory experiences is how we learn about the world. Consider babies. Once infants reach a certain stage of development, they start reaching out and touching, grabbing and sucking objects. This sensual play is how they complete their previous observations, by engaging their senses. Touching enables our sensory system to complete the experience. That's why you see babies kicking off until they have the object they're focused on actually in their hands. This is how we learn. Once you touch the fire, you know it burns, which is why next time you don't stick your hand in it. The reason you know better next time is because of your internal system that collects, processes, and stores your sensory experiences. So everything we learn as children, and all the sensory perceptions and perspectives we accumulate throughout our lives, are stored in our body without exception. This behind-the-scenes function is often dismissed in science, medicine, and education, but is fundamental to the health and life of every human on Earth. The body acts as a storehouse for the subconscious, a physical vessel where all our memories, emotional patterns, and psychological habits are stored. This information does not lie dormant within us. It is highly influential in our everyday life, shaping our behaviors and the ways we express our personality. This is why the personality is ultimately a response to our environment, a kind of complex survival mechanism that develops and ingrains itself as subconscious behavioral patterns. In most situations, we don't think about how to respond. We simply react according to what we already have on file. In these terms, the personality is built on our experiences, not on our true identity. Our true identity is related to the soul. It has much more depth and usually has to be excavated from beneath the layers of the personality before it can express itself in the world uninhibited. Imagine your nervous system as a spider web with hundreds of thousands of invisible threads connecting your brain with the rest of your body. Your brain is like the spider, which catches the prey. In other words, the information and experiences that you perceive and accumulate. Once the information has been caught through the senses and transmitted to the pineal gland in the center of the brain, the spider distributes the information to different parts of your body for storing. The invisible threads of your spider web extend from your pineal gland to points all over your body, including your hands, arms, and legs, back and feet, and everywhere else. Your spider brain then breaks down the information gathered through your sensory perceptions into triangle, circle, and square formations, so it can be stored more efficiently in its web. It is this simple yet intricate filing system that your unconscious is busy maintaining 24/7. The information you take in doesn't remain in the brain. It is distributed to your body, and your entire physiological ecosystem responds to it. When you're happy, you don't only feel happy in your brain, you feel happy in the fullness of your being. This is because happy information is sent to the happy part of the brain, and sad information to the sad part of the brain, and these specific areas of the brain correspond to specific areas of the body and invoke responses in the rest of your being. The brain's filing system is dictated by the information itself and your perspective upon the information. Based on this criteria, the brain allocates the information to threads of the spider web which connect certain parts of the brain with certain parts of the body. The system works according to colors, forms, emotions, and vibrations. So the storage location in your body is assigned based on the nature of the information and how you interpret it, as well as your existing psychological patterns and belief system. This is why most people respond to fear with a pre-programmed physical reaction, and to happiness with another pre-programmed reaction, because the brain and body are triggered in ways that unleash ingrained physiological responses within them. Given that there is a growing trend for cultivating well-being and holistic health, it is interesting that most people continue to disregard the impact of information and recreational sensory experiences on the brain and body. Some people take great care to eat right, exercise well, even engage practices like yoga or meditation, but then willingly put their brain and body through all kinds of entertainment experiences without thinking twice. As you go about your daily life, you absorb many colors and forms from all around you. These experiences, images, messages, and vibrations are constantly projected at your brain and senses, and ultimately all become part of your consciousness and memory. Not all this information benefits you or assists you to fulfill your purpose in life, but as long as your senses perceive it, the brain soaks it up and stores it in your body. It is important to recognize that our brains and bodies are not necessarily equipped to deal with the volume of information we tend to upload to them. Often it bombards our brains, occupies our bodies, and obstructs our relationship with our most precious resource, ourselves. Overloading ourselves with information can slow down our ability to respond and make decisions, because our spider web is stacked up with more than it can handle efficiently. In the long term, this inhibits personal growth and prevents us from accessing and realizing our real potential. One of the reasons movies are entertaining is the sensory overload they deliver, but we can spend the rest of our lives housing the experience of the movie. We may find ourselves quoting a line or two in conversation, integrating new words into our vocabulary, or ideas into our sense of fashion, even our personality. This adds further layers of information to the body and personality, which may appeal if you want to appear cultured or on trend, but which can actually make it harder for you to access the real you and realize your own dreams and desires in life. Moreover, the constant consumption of the same kind of information means that information gets stacked up in specific areas of the brain and body. This can eventually cause the spider web to break because it becomes overloaded on one side, which can precipitate mental and physical disease. The spider web is a matrix of connections that keeps the electricity or energy flowing throughout the nervous system, So when a thread breaks down within that flow of energy, the entire web of connections is impacted, and this takes its toll on the body, leading to disease. The ceaseless online information exchange, now normalized in our world, is one of our biggest challenges, because the information we take in is excessive and more than we really need in order to grow into our potential. We have an innate hunger to experience life and to know and understand ourselves in this creation. But due to the internet, smartphones, advertising, and 24/7 accessibility of media and entertainment, information consumption is out of hand. Think about how marketing works. You see the product of the campaign and see or hear the campaign message, repeatedly usually, until you eventually have to react, either by buying or rejecting it. The reason you have to react is because your subconscious is already invested. It is spending energy on it, dealing with filing it in your internal library of sensory experiences. It's already in your perceptive system. Therefore, eventually you're forced into responding as a way to complete processing the information you took in. You can probably think of products or trends you dismissed initially as something you would never use, and then found yourself buying weeks or months or years later. This happens because the information accumulates in the subconscious, eventually forcing the conscious mind to respond. You took in the information about the product, then saw more messaging about it and examples of people integrating that product into their lives, and eventually came to a point where you found yourself buying the same thing. Another example of how our environment shapes our responses can be found in people of the same nationality who share similar traits. For instance, Indians often have similar body language traits to each other, which are different from body language traits shared by a group of Africans. English people tend to share a certain sense of humor, which is different to the American sense of humor. We can see that certain cultures tend to elicit specific responses based on the experiences and perceptions shared by people in those cultures. This happens because experiences generated by that cultural climate are embedded in the native's body, which becomes an extension of their subconscious mind and ultimately shapes their future responses. This can make it hard for humans to think freely and integrate new perspectives in life, because subconsciously our responses are already tuned within a specific framework that has been physically imprinted on our body. This can inhibit our ability to claim perspectives that reach beyond our existing frame of reference, or experience a new moment without limiting it subconsciously. This is why we often experience growth as painful, because it involves breaking out of familiar psychological frameworks and comfort zones. IQME is created from the understanding that all the experiences we consume with the five senses, whether through news, movies, social media, window shopping, advertising, browsing, or even a story someone tells us, all have to be digested and released or responded to at some point and in some way. IQME is designed to help with the heavy lifting part of digesting our sensory experiences, so we don't feel overwhelmed and are better equipped to stay in our power and navigate our way through any given situation. Being overloaded internally is like having too many files or windows open on our computer to a point where it can't operate efficiently anymore. The feeling of stress, which is notably more common in people leading a metropolitan lifestyle, is like an internal alarm letting us know that our system is struggling to deal with the input of our experiences. But often we ignore these internal alerts or don't know how to respond to them. Perhaps more information is incoming because of work or personal commitments that have to be dealt with. Maybe you don't know how to respond to the news of a global pandemic, so you keep switching on the news or scrolling through social media as a default reaction, hoping it will bring you a sense of understanding or respite. We are reaching a point of collective saturation, and in many ways collective hysteria. The current corona pandemic is serving as a catalyst that brings to light all kinds of underlying and more serious issues. For many, facing the present state of the world invokes a sense of helplessness, disempowerment, even doom. However, there is hope. Not only a fluffy, blind faith kind of hope, but hope derived from an understanding of our true capacity. We are equipped with everything we need, as individuals and as a global society. The answer lies in unraveling and overcoming the limitations that prevent us from accessing our natural intelligence and abilities that are far, far greater and more powerful than those society generally acknowledges we have. One of the main reasons we're unable to access the solutions we need, both individually and collectively, is because we are swamped with information that is not beneficial to our growth or empowerment. We are sensitive creatures by nature, just like animals who know exactly when to jump or fly or where to go in order to survive and thrive. But when our senses are too bombarded, we become shut down and desensitized, and can forget our innate ability to connect the dots of a situation in a way that serves our evolution. This is one of the reasons people end up feeling lost or depressed or suicidal, because their natural system for navigating life is all choked up with undigested information and experiences. We're living in a society that thinks they know everything because they can Google everything. The modern mentality is generally driven to acquire as much knowledge as possible. But in this way, humanity has developed a relationship with information that is unhealthy. In this cultural climate, it's easy to forget that true knowledge, or wisdom, comes from direct experience. For instance, the idea of being in love, or watching a movie about being in love, is quite different to the actual experience of being in love. Similarly, watching a movie about climbing Mount Everest is quite different from actually doing it. You will never learn the same life lessons from the movie as you will from the personal experience. Usually, the conscious mind carries forward our present agenda, but the subconscious is programmed to act from our past experience or information we've already consumed. For many people, this results in an inner struggle because the conscious mind has a goal or aspires to some kind of progress or evolution, but the subconscious directs from the shadows, pulling the individual back into old patterns of behavior and desires. This can result in an ongoing battle, since only one aspect can determine the individual's actions or decisions moment to moment. This kind of internal war is very common and occurs when the subconscious is dominating the conscious mind and when people are disconnected from their bodies and real needs. Attempting to transform subconscious patterns by willpower alone is not only exhausting, but eventually the subconscious will find a way to have its way, even if it is some time later. The solution is bringing awareness to subconscious patterns and retuning, healing, and harmonizing body and mind, which naturally relinquishes the hold of the subconscious over the conscious mind and will of the individual. This process involves the clarification of our perspectives and internal ecosystem, and enables us to return to a place where our wants and needs are matching and not constantly contradicting each other. IQME offers a support system for this kind of personal transformation because it helps regulate the brain and body and the processes between them. It is a way of detoxing the mind and senses and recalibrating ingrained mental and emotional patterns of reaction, which is fundamental to healing and self-optimization. Each and every living thing has a vibrational frequency, including us and including our thoughts. The work of Dr. Masaru Emoto has shown the influence of vibration on water molecules and how the molecules transform when they're exposed to different vibrations, even in the form of words such as love and hate. He discovered that water exposed to certain positive vibrations showed brilliant, complex, and colorful snowflake patterns, while water exposed to other negative vibrations formed incomplete, asymmetrical patterns with dull colors. As humans, made of 80% water, we are naturally impacted by the frequencies we encounter in our environment, through entertainment, in other people, and within ourselves in the form of our own thoughts. When we understand that everything in life is vibration, including us, we can also understand that our thoughts have the power to shape our own bodies and belief systems, and to influence and change the physical world around us. Cultivating self-awareness shows us that our thoughts impact everything we do, perceive, and experience, including the future situations we attract. They shape our expression, communication, and interactions, including our body language, how we stand, the way we walk, dance, make love, and move through life. We learn that while we ourselves are susceptible to frequencies transmitted by other people in our environment, so too can our thoughts, emotions, and actions create sonic imprints that ripple out and impact the external world. Consider that 5 out of 6 of your thoughts are subconscious, i.e. they happen without your conscious mind even noticing them. So within a second or two you may think 5 thoughts, but none of them actually register in your conscious awareness. However, they all contribute to the 6th thought, which is registered by your conscious mind. You can picture an iceberg. Your conscious mind is the visible tip that extends out of the water, but the majority of the iceberg is under the surface, stretching for miles into the ocean below, the realm of the unseen but powerful subconscious, which shapes, forms, and upholds the conscious mind. The influence of our subconscious iceberg, when it goes unrecognized, fosters personal repetition. For example, attracting the same kind of unhealthy relationships, mishaps, struggles, or challenging situations. The reason we struggle to break free of these cycles is due to unaddressed material that has accumulated in the subconscious and body over the course of our lifetime. This impacts our conscious mind from the sidelines, influencing the decisions we take and how we perceive and live life. If we don't address this material, we end up responding mechanically to life the way we were programmed in childhood, as well as from wounds accumulated in adulthood, some of which may be faded in memory, but which our subconscious has not forgotten. Most people end up unconsciously imitating their parents' life experiences, unless they take the rebellious road, in which case they act in reaction to the influence, but still don't avoid it entirely. Very few escape childhood unscathed. Most people have memories of being bullied, ignored, unheard, or unrecognized at some stage of their development. Many have experienced loss, grief, or heartbreak, and even abuse or trauma at some point in their lives. While it is not constructive to get stuck in self-pity or blame games, it is important to acknowledge past experiences and release them consciously, so they do not continue to influence the present from behind the scenes. It is only when we have put down the burden of the past and consciously laid it to rest that we are free to act from the present without our actions being shaped and dictated by old baggage. Awareness and forgiveness are keys to healing and releasing the pain and limitations of the past. The nature of time is that you cannot go back and edit a moment that already happened, but the present can always be redeemed through the perspectives and actions you choose to take. That is why you are naturally empowered the moment you realize it, because you always have the ability to choose and change within the present moment. And once you've shed the patterns and programs inherited through your parents and culture, you are truly free to be you uncensored and to fulfill your own purpose, dreams, and potential in life. This kind of liberation does not come gift-wrapped with fairy dust and a one-size-fits-all label. It is personal work, which requires effort, vigilance, and responsibility in order to bring to light whatever is lurking in the subconscious. We have to be brave enough to deep dive into our internal ocean and face that iceberg up close. The point is to ensure that our subconscious is aligned and integrated with the aims and aspirations of our conscious mind, and acting as our ally, not our saboteur. This requires cleaning up our past experiences, which empowers us to embrace our individuality and establish and pursue our own purpose and dreams in life. IQME is designed to cultivate personal empowerment because it supports the brain to clear unwanted debris from past experiences, making room in the subconscious and clarifying the conscious mind. By physically coloring the shapes and forms, you consciously or subconsciously revisit subconscious thoughts driven by undigested experiences, including entertainment or social media consumed through the screen. This helps the brain to process and file them, so they're no longer stacked up in the subconscious like a maxed out inbox or pile of unopened mail, cluttering your consciousness. This allows you the space to reset yourself, both at a basic mundane mental level and also when dealing with much deeper subconscious and conscious material. This kind of mental self-care is fundamental to healing and empowerment, and also to long-term health and well-being. One of the reasons it's important is because accumulated material that remains undealt with can eventually cause the spider web to snap, leading to disease. Let's consider the corona story, a health threat currently sweeping the planet, in these terms. Because information is so available, most people are swallowing much more information about corona than they really need, which fuels fear, panic, and a sense of helplessness. Not only that, but disease occurs when there is an overconsumption of the same type of information or experience, which puts excessive stress on a particular area of an individual's spiderweb. This in itself can disrupt the delicate balance of the nervous system, body, and mind. Many people acknowledge the expression, "you are what you eat," but seldom translate it to include information consumption. However, the same equation applies. Therefore, it is worth considering the information you consume, lest you effectively become it. Whether it is food or information, our consumption habits all contribute to forming the shape of our thoughts, belief systems, and bodies over time. In other words, what you choose to consume has a direct bearing on what or who you become. While it is an ongoing journey and never-ending story in many ways, cleaning up your consciousness is rewarding. It is like polishing your inner diamond, allowing you to radiate, magnetize, and attract the life you desire. And in this pivotal time in human history, it has never been more important, mainly because of the nature of modern culture. Due to our consumption habits and the advertising, marketing, movies, and algorithms that influence our daily lives, the human collective is dealing with an increasing gap between our conscious and subconscious. Billions of people sit in front of a screen every day, watching the world through it. We may be able to touch the screen, but cannot touch what we see on it. Our sensory system is therefore unable to complete the experience because we are limited to 2D. Take TV, social media, or watching YouTube or a movie as examples. As you watch, the conscious mind is able to differentiate between what it sees on the screen and where the physical body is. From that place, the conscious mind can rationalize the action. You can tell yourself that entertainment is recreational, that taking responsibility in life requires keeping up with world news, or that knowledge is useful, therefore information is beneficial. But while viewing life through a screen is seemingly a conscious experience, in reality it is only semi-conscious because it is dreamlike. It is more like a subconscious experience, even though you're awake and conscious. This is how we saturate ourselves with window shopping semi-conscious experiences all day long, soaking up hundreds and thousands of audio-visual perceptions that we can't touch or complete as a real experience. These end up sitting undigested between our conscious and subconscious mind, furthering the gap between them. When the majority of the human collective is operating with their subconscious choked up with shared entertainment experiences, humanity becomes increasingly homogenized because everyone is running the same programs in their subconscious. And the more undigested information and experiences get stacked up, the more thoughts that arise in the conscious mind, seemingly independently, are in reality shaped and influenced by the undigested content sitting in the subconscious. True empowerment is only possible when we can bridge the gap between conscious and subconscious and liberate ourselves from undigested materials stacked up in our subconscious. Yet each of us continuously cultivates our own subconscious illusory world from information we consume every day. The more information we swallow without consciously digesting it, the wider the gap between our reality and our illusory world becomes, and the greater the separation between our conscious and subconscious. We are operating under a false perspective that the world is at the tips of our fingers, and that the next experience can be had at the click of a button. But this is an illusion backed by the part of the brain that believes everything it sees, the subconscious, while the conscious part of the brain has another take on it. So while the conscious mind can rationalize and justify information consumption in many ways, the fact remains that the more we feed our subconscious illusory world with content and information without digesting it, the greater the wall we build between our conscious and subconscious. In other words, the more we cultivate separation, even ignorance, within our own selves. When the subconscious is busy living stacked up entertainment or screen-fed experiences, it is less available to support the ideas and desires of the conscious mind. This makes it harder for us to realize our goals. Instead of being fertile ground for our own dreams to grow and flourish, it becomes cluttered and sludgy, making it harder for us to cultivate our ideas and bring them to bear as fruits in the conscious or physical realm. The reason people tend to experience a greater dissatisfaction with their present reality than previous generations is because reality increasingly doesn't fit the imaginary world we create internally from everything we visually consume. Semi-consciously, you might have gone to a beach, a party, and another city all within half an hour, while your body is still sitting in the office looking at the clock, waiting for your working day to end. This creates a tension between the conscious and subconscious mind, a pressure that goes largely unacknowledged. A result of this pressure is that we become more disconnected from our ability to live in the moment we're in. Instead, we are inclined to judge each moment based on our latest consumption of information, which leads to frustration, discontentment, and dis-ease. When there is space in the subconscious, meaning our previous experiences are processed, digested, and completed, then we have room in the garden of our consciousness to plant our own intentions and nurture the seeds of our dreams, without unruly unconscious content choking them like weeds. In recent years, neuroscience has revealed that the same areas of the brain are active when remembering the past and imagining the future. It is possible to observe this within your own mental processes. When you imagine the future, your projections are usually, if loosely, based on your past experiences. Even when you are fantasizing or fearing an entirely different reality, the mental building blocks you use to construct the future situation are almost always excavated from your past experiences. Usually, when we have the real experience, whether it is a date or event or vacation or even a marriage or child, it turns out to be quite different from how we imagined. Over time, if we are paying attention, we learn that our projections are usually inaccurate. This is true of fantasy and fear, which are often no more than cognitive functions triggering us to believe mental projections rooted in our past experiences, which are better understood as false evidence appearing real. If we want to create a future that is better than our past, it is important to be aware that subconscious memories influence our mental processes, and that our thoughts influence our future reality. In these terms, stacked up entertainment experiences and information end up limiting our potential in life, because the mind defaults to looking through the lens of the subconscious. In reality, there may be billions of incredible possibilities at your fingertips, but because your brain is programmed to imagine the future based on your past, the way you see your possibilities is through a limited awareness of your true potential. This is why individuals and humanity fall into repeating patterns and cycles and fail to fulfill our true capacity to create and evolve. Studies show that humans of 35 years old and above exhibit very little original or new behavior. Most respond to life based on ingrained cognitive patterns and programs dictated by their previous experiences. There are always exceptions. Sometimes life forces change upon us through pain or disease or other forms of personal upheaval. But conscious evolution and opening up to new realms of possibility within and around us requires bringing discipline to our choices and awareness and agility to our mental processes. Without this kind of concerted, conscious effort, our true value and purpose can easily remain undiscovered, even if social recognition or success is achieved. The responsibility is ultimately our own, because it is through our most intimate perspectives and relationship, the relationship to our own self, that we attract situations and guidance that are conducive to our evolution. It is generally understood that humans are operating at less than 10% of their potential. We all have more to give, and that more is simply needed if we are to avoid the impending destruction of our species and planet. If we want to move forwards towards a better world and more harmonious future, it is imperative that we free our perception from the limitations of the past. The less subconscious baggage we are carrying, the better. Through perseverance and practice, we can develop the ability to monitor our thoughts and actions and choose what we want to grow from them, as well as what we feed ourselves. When you consider the information you consume on a daily basis, it is interesting to ask, is it motivating you? Is it empowering you to know and love yourself better? Is it nurturing your personal growth? This fundamental form of self-care nourishes the real you, the you that is much more dynamic, interesting, beautiful, and talented than the amalgamated layers of social constructs that you unconsciously took on since infancy. The point is to be mindful of the jungle of information around us and to learn to navigate it with awareness, so we don't fall victim to losing our individuality or sense of purpose, and can avoid being replaced by artificial intelligence in moments to come. You decide whether to watch the news or a movie, or go on social media, or read the advertisements. We all have limited time and attention for consuming news and entertainment, and can actively decide if what we are about to watch or read or listen to is worth it. Like reading the nutrition label of food and taking a moment to consider if this food is healthy for our body. So well-being takes on a new meaning, because you know that in each moment of life, you are making executive decisions within your own perspectives and actions that impact your mental and physical health. By recognizing yourself as the ultimate governing authority in your life, you can take responsibility for nurturing your own growth and develop your ability to give to yourself, others, and the world. In this way, we can cultivate an environment within us from which our true potential and a brighter future can emerge. So in this unprecedented time, we would like to invite you to be vigilant and watchful when it comes to your information consumption. We would like to encourage you to seek beneficial experiences that are nurturing and inspiring, not just something to watch or read or listen to that consumes your time and energy. While you may feel a need to stay informed about events that are unfolding, remember that watching excessive amounts of news or reading masses of opinions on a subject does not necessarily help you resolve a global or a personal crisis, nor does it keep your own body and mind in good health. Most people are aware of their productivity and well-being to some extent, and many are interested in optimizing their potential for the sake of themselves and those they care about. Usually, when we understand the impact of anything on our health, our inclination is to consider it with more care. Once you become aware of the relationship between your information consumption and your sense of personal clarity in your own experience, it is difficult to dismiss. Awareness breeds choice. The human body is a delicately balanced ecosystem and a phenomenal resource of power and wisdom. Each of us holds the key to our own.
You wanna